Hi guys, Paul Seils here. Thanks for joining us for this session on surviving and thriving beyond the Great Reset. We're going to cover a bit of ground here in this session, and I wanted to cover off first by saying that the disclaimer that the information that's provided in this meeting is general in nature and does not constitute legal or financial and legal advice. Every effort's been made to ensure that the information provided is accurate, and individuals must not rely on this information to make a financial or investment decision. And that we are very clear about not positioning ourselves as financial advisors, and this is all about strategy moving forward. So a little bit about my background. My background was in privacy as a privacy advocate and in project management. So I spent a decade building a project management business, joint venturing with a James Packer company in the Middle East, built at 65 staff. Also spent some time in real estate development, and then founded Paul Seils and Associates back in 2014, primarily around strategy coaching and also as a privacy advocate. So I've been very fortunate to spend some time with some of these gentlemen over the years. There's Graham Hancock, Max Egan, the late John Pilger, Nassim Harriman, and that is John Shipton, Julian Assange's father, Dr. Bruce Lipton, David Icke, Foster Gamble from Thrive Documentaries, Michael Tellinger from the Ubuntu movement, and then my recent trips and tours of the US, including with Lee Dundas. There's Dr. David Martin, there's Mickey Willis, Judy Mikovits, Alex Jones, also again the late Dr. Rashid Buttar and Laura Logan, the US journalist. So my background has been, I ran this event back in 2018 called Block Conscious, bringing consciousness speakers together with blockchain around privacy. And everything that we're sort of dealing with moving forward is dual-edged, depending on the intention of who's running the technology. So we had a lot of great speakers there, including, again, the late John McAfee and also Roger Ver at that event, where 250 people flew in from around the world for Brisbane for that event. We also run a community called Conscious Investor Network. And that's not so much as just around finances. It's like how we're spending our time, where we're spending our attention, and what we're creating moving forward. And this is one of the philosophies in the Conscious Investor Network that we live by, is stop being fooled by the illusion of wealth. Big houses, expensive cars, and a fancy lifestyle is not wealth. It's debt. Wealth is time, wealth is freedom, wealth is option, and wealth is health. So we're actually going for freedom. So what's happening at the moment? I'm going to touch on some of these areas that's transpiring at the moment, and then talk about some of the solutions. And if no doubt, if you like me, I've been concerned about like what's been happening in the last 4 years and what it's ultimately leading to in this agenda moving forward. So we've been dealing with what's happened with the pandemic for the last 4 or 5 years, and then also there's other multiple agendas running in the background, including the World Economic Forum's Agenda 2030. And some of the quotes by Klaus Schwab has been, the pandemic represents a rare but narrow window of opportunity to reflect, reimagine, and reset our world. So we're very big into clients, when we work with clients, creating your own timeline moving forward. That's one of his quotes. The other quote that Klaus Schwab has used is also that you'll own nothing and you'll be happy. And a lot of people are sort of, particularly including myself, have been sort of interested and concerned about how they're going to attend to implementing that. And if you get a chance, read this book if you can. I'll post the PDF link for the book that you can read it yourself if you like. It's all there. There's none of the material that we provide in this presentation is conspiratorial in nature. It's all relatable, and it's all found in the mainstream media that we've resourced. So that's one book. The other book that's been very impactful for me, which is the book that I didn't realize it came out in 1997, called Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. And I was very fortunate earlier this year to be able to meet him and spend some time with him and talk about some of the concerns and have the conversations behind the scenes that he doesn't so much have publicly. One of the questions that I asked him is, because he's very highly geared, he's big into decentralized cryptocurrency and also precious metals. And I said to him, aren't you concerned about CBDCs, central bank digital currencies? And he said to me, they're already here. So this is some articles. They're all as recent as I could get for this presentation. Robert Kiyosaki advises preparing for depression. For years, I could see this crisis coming. So this is very interesting here. No doubt if you've seen any of his content that he's been providing on social media, cautioning against the complacency prevalent amongst many who prefer to live at Disneyland. So I'm very much a realist. I'm an optimist, but I'm also equally a realist about what we're about to experience, and it's in unprecedented times at the moment. So a lot of people are drawing upon information retrospectively, but we're entering a unprecedented period of time that we're moving forward, including unprecedented debt levels. So one of the things that we do with working with clients is making sure that you remove any unnecessary debt. So this is an interesting article here goes back to April the 8th, 2020. Australians warned they could be taxed for a generation to pay off $1 trillion in debt as the budget plays out fighting the coronavirus. And for people that don't know, like a generation is generally described as somewhere between 25 and 30 years. So what we're concerned about here is what's happened in Australia, and it's been forced through the Australian government. So that's happened as recently as May without any discussion or debate, and that's had to be forced through to be able to make way for these agendas with the central bank digital currencies, etc. So the new legislation has been passed, and I've attended some of the rallies that was held earlier this year by people like Malcolm Roberts. This is probably the largest issue that's facing us at this point in time, is the digital identity. And I attended this rally, as you can see there, that's in Brisbane, where there's probably only maybe 300 to 400 people there in attendance. So I was really quite surprised that more people weren't concerned about what we're facing in that regard. Part of it also is that it's a global agenda that's happening at this point in time. So again, none of this information is conspiratorial in nature. I spent hundreds and thousands of hours doing research around this, and I've been in this space coaching clients in strategy for around the last 7 or 8 years now. And we can see how this is weaving together, because this is a directive. The Pentagon creates a roadmap for zero trust internet access by 2027. So what that means in effect is that if anyone that no one that has any that doesn't have a digital ID won't be able to get internet access moving forward. So that's the concern. This is part of it as well. And again, it also gets put out in the media regularly also, and they have to announce what they're doing. So some of you might have noticed this happened in October 20, this news article from ABC News, 24th of October, 2023. Microsoft to help Australia build Cyber Shield. Anthony Albanese announces in Washington with something like a $5 billion deal. So that's Orwellian doublespeak for geoblock or geofencing. So geoblocking, as per the Wikipedia definition of it, is restriction to access to internet content based upon the user's geographical location. So you can read a little bit more about that as well. So it can constrain what you're available to access, and also within certain perimeters. And geofences can also constrain the content within that geographical location as per state, per suburb, per state, per city, per country, etc. So that's what geoblocking is. And then that also integrates and feeds with some people are concerned about what's happening with the potentially social credit system. And social credit, people say, oh, that's only happening in China, but the social credit system has already been trialed in places like Darwin in Australia back in 2018. And that integrates also with the geo-blocking and the geofencing with what's happening with the 15-minute city agendas, which is all can be found there as well if you dare to dig in the research of it. So central bank digital currencies. Central bank digital currencies are a very big concern. Again, it's a global agenda also. So central bank digital currencies have the ability to create mass surveillance of every transaction. And I'll just cover off on here. This is not a new conversation as well. This article goes back from Reuters back to what's that, November 2nd, 2020, Australia Central Bank launches digital central currency project. So they've already got it running in the background as well. But I think this is the main thing that's a concern here. And it'll reference in the video that I'll play you shortly from a speech that I did a couple of years ago. While central banks already have digital settlement accounts with financial institutions, Mr. Medcraft predicted that those would soon be extended to everyday transaction accounts for the general population. With central bank issued digital currencies, you might not need a bank account anymore, Mr. Medcraft said. A digital fiat currency, whilst convenient, will also be convenient for the government, able to be taxed, tracked, and confiscated at will. And here's my speech from, that was May 2023.
Imagine living in a world where you are forced to operate using a digital currency. A digital centralized currency that monitors and shares the data of every transaction you make with third parties. A centralized digital currency that dictates what you can and cannot buy, when you can and cannot buy. A digital centralized currency that dictates which companies you can or cannot buy from. A digital centralized currency that, if not spent within a certain time frame, can automatically expire. A digital centralized currency that dictates what geographical location, district, within which 20-minute city you are limited to buy from. A digital centralized currency that integrates with a social credit system. Of course, what I'm referring to here are central bank digital currencies, or CBDCs. What I am referring to here can no longer be dismissed as some fanciful conspiracy theory. The US, if they're lucky enough to have survived their pending debt ceiling, is already launching the FedNow program, which is a precursor to integrating the CBDC system as of 1st of July 2023. This demoniac, pedophilic, Keynesian economic system meets Big Brother out of control, like we've never seen or could ever imagine. The terrifying implications on what's left of our privacy, sovereignty, and freedom. Revelations 13:17, so that they could not buy or sell unless they had the mark, which is the name of the beast or the number of its name. There are reasons why people like Julian Assange are being kept incarcerated, to stop them alerting humanity about these trials and tribulations we're about to face. What we are witnessing is a slow, controlled demolition of financial systems, whilst they are attempting to get their CBDC systems in order to launch. We have in Australia the EAUD CBDC in Australia. As former ASIC chairman Mr. Greg Medcraft stated publicly in 2017, a digital fiat currency, while convenient, would also be convenient for the government, able to be taxed, tracked, and confiscated at will. Ultimately, over time, this demoniac system will destroy itself. But in the meantime, the challenge is for us to navigate this transition without participation. The only way forward is to unify, to stand with each other, hand in hand, to hold each other close as we experience splitting into parallel economies. What these issues create for us is the opportunity to discover and embrace, or perhaps rediscover, other options such as barter and exchange, the gift economy and sacred economics, the economics of goodness, those that bring us together for a world that works for all, not just 0.01% of the population. The masses don't see this coming. We are many, we are united, and we are ready.
Yeah.
So interesting. So here we are, and here's some other articles here as well. So it's like, this is an article here in relation to one of the industry magazines, and it talks about the fact that it's highly probable that central bank digital currencies will get released by 2025. So there's a limited window of opportunity here for people to be able to take action moving forward, to be able to diversify in relation to that. And he says here, the City guy expects that this electronic Aussie dollar, fully backed by the federal government and the RBA, will be stored in users' mobile wallets. So that's in relation to central bank digital currencies. And we're going to talk about these are some of the issues that we're facing, and then we're talking about solutions moving forward. The next main issue that we're facing at this point in time is AI, or artificial or autonomous intelligence. And interesting, I think it was Stephen Hawking back in 2014 said that the major concern for the future of humanity would be artificial intelligence, or AI. Not only in relation to its capabilities, but its impact on people's future careers. And it's highly suspected at some point in time, as they bring as we've seen in the last 4 years, no doubt if you're like me and concerned about like what's happened, whether whatever side you were in that process or in that equation, concerned about like what happened in relation to the mandates, that's going to be the same scenario moving forward in relation to CBDCs, digital identity, and the artificial intelligence. So AI, this is from The Guardian, AI will affect 40% of jobs. So yeah, that's that in relation to that as well. And then we're in a point of time at the moment where it's about to move exponentially. And I know a lot of us are experiencing what some people describe as the quickening, with time moving very, very quickly at the moment. And that's about to go next level. So Apple Intelligence is about to be launched across the world this year through OpenAI, and artificial intelligence takes center stage. It says here, interesting use of language, Apple joined the AI arms race, saying Monday it plans to bring more personalized versions of artificial intelligence to its 2.2 billion device users. So that's about to go quantum in that regard. And then there's everything else that we're experiencing in that regard too, particularly in relation to other organizations like Palantir. So Coles Inc., this is from February 2024, Coles Inc.'s deal with major CIA-linked data intelligence tech firm. The supermarket giant Coles has quietly signed a concerning deal with data intelligence firm that provides services to the CIA and Pentagon. So all these organizations, CIA, BlackRock, all the intelligence agencies are already using AI. They're really just pushing through the agenda to get it legalized in relation to the back end side of things. But what that'll make available to this, I can't remember precisely, 680 supermarkets just with one chain, making it all fully automated. So that's going to be interesting.
Elon Musk predicts the 2024 U.S. presidential election.
Going to win the White House in 2024.
Who do you think will win the White House in 2032? Which type of AI? Transformers or fusion?
So interesting. So Elon Musk being asked about who he thought was going to win the 2024 election. And interesting enough, there's many a true word that said in jest about which AI is actually going to win the 2032 election. So it's interesting. So that's what's happening at the moment. So the question that's on everyone's tongue at the moment is what we can do about it. And you can protest if you want to. I've spent my time in that space. But the time for protest is over. The time now is to take action moving forward. You can move forward in politics. That moves very slowly at the moment. There's a lot of Australian politicians doing great work. Alex Antic, Malcolm Roberts, Jared Rennick, all those guys doing stuff, but it's very, very, very limited. Legal action, you can take legal action moving forward. Also, trust me, in my experience, it's a very, very slow and very, very expensive being involved in that arena as well, particularly in the last 4 or 5 years. Spiritual practices, for some of us, we actually feel or know that we're in a spiritual war at the moment. So it's crucial that people maintain their spiritual practices moving forward, because one of the things that artificial intelligence does not have the capability of is interfering with our connection to source, our own intuition, which ultimately will lead us through this period of time for this transition. Yeah, if you don't believe in spiritual warfare, get ready to hide behind someone who does. So, and then there's also being part of community as well is also crucial, important to feel supported and be in the conversation for creation. I've spent my time in a lot of the freedom and truth movements, etc. But there's a lot of people in the space that are just addicted to talking about the problems over and over again. Now is the opportunity for us to be engaged and invested in the conversation for the solutions and what's possible and actually the world that we want to create. So that's the issues at the moment. So what's the good news? The good news is for those that are prepared that this will be the greatest transfer of wealth that the world has ever seen. And when I'm talking about the end of this decade towards Agenda 2030, but moving forward towards the rest of the decade for 2034, there's opportunities there that exist that for people that are prepared. So we have 7 pillars of strategy in the Conscious Investor, 7 pillars of strategy. So I'll run through those moving forward. The first one is privacy. You're going to experience, particularly the next 2 years, that there's going to be a huge assault against privacy. I mean, like I said, I spent about 8-9 years as a privacy advocate talking about the concerns of privacy. And I'm not the only one. There's also been a lot of other people, like we mentioned Julian Assange there before in the video, people like Edward Snowden. One of the famous Edward Snowden quotes is the current generation of teenagers will have no concept of privacy whatsoever. And there's always ways that you're able to do that and mitigate risk. It's all about minimizing risk as far as we're concerned. There's no absolutes in the world, but minimizing risk in relation to your privacy as much as possible. We know that's on the radar because this is stuff that's happening in the state and the federal governments at the moment, talking about things, including not being able to produce evidence for any assets that you've gained, stop and search for unexplained wealth, prohibit possession of encrypted devices, and compel access to digital devices, etc. So we know that that's moving in that direction. One of the main things that we start to work with when we're working with clients, we work with clients either like over a 3-month or a 12-month period of time to get bits and pieces in order to transition. There's no silver bullets, there's no magic buttons here because we've operated in this space for such a long period of time. It's about getting prepared moving forward. In relation to banking, and this is nothing new for me. I've been talking about this publicly since probably around about 2013. And this is some of the stuff that I've been talking about a lot and did a lot of interviews, did a lot of podcasts. I had a group and a Telegram channel that had like over 12,000 members that sort of several channels got deleted and all that information's unfortunately been lost. But talking about that the Westpac and the NAB Bank were both bailed out by the US Federal Reserve back in Australia's GFC in 2008, 2009, which is something that a lot of people don't know. And then a lot of people are also under the illusion that they think that they're covered for $250,000 under a guarantee, and then those were subsequently changed. So Australia's at risk in relation to what they call the bail-in laws. So previously, it was the bailouts, the government's bailed out, passed the debts on, and now they're moving into what they call the bail-ins, which threaten the depositors. So treating the account holders as effectively as stockholders within the bank. So what happened in Cyprus is people woke up and then found about 47.5% of their funds skimmed out of their bank account, deposits to be wiped out. So yeah, this is all the information that goes back to 15th of July 2020 in relation to bank deposits, etc. And this is, like I said, this is not a new conversation that I'm talking about. I've been doing this for a while now, and it's starting to become hot because people have got concerned, particularly in relation to what's happened with the digital ID and then the vulnerability around banks. So this is conversations that I had back in those YouTube channels about bank bail-ins, and that's the thing that's with Robert Barwick of CEC back in the day. That's in 2019. And then with what happened recently with the vulnerability of the banks, a lot of people panicked and said, get your cash out of the bank. And I was just sort of standing there shaking my head thinking, that's not a strategy. The strategy, because if you look at here, this article, 32 cents to make a $100 note, it's the Reserve Bank, it costs them 32 cents to create a $100 note. They don't care if you're keeping money in cash, and if you pull your money out of cash and stick it under your mattress, you've got just as much risk in that regard as having it in the bank as well. So this is what's happening moving forward. So this goes back to, this is October 19, 2023. So they're closing, very, very slowly closing all the banks and withdrawing the use of the ATMs. And this is not just a conversation that's happening in Australia, it's been happening globally as well, where they're moving into the digital agenda, because a lot of the banks, including Bank West, are moving to remove all their physical existence, Bank West and Macquarie Bank, and becoming digital only. So that's in relation to banking. So debts, excuse me, not all debts bad, but removing as many unnecessary debts as possible moving forward. And people like Robert Kiyosaki are talking about potentially drawing comparison about what's about to happen moving forward, in comparison to what happened with the Great Depression. And people should remember, if they study history, that the Great Depression didn't happen all of a sudden. It happened 1929 to 1933, and then continued the tail all the way through another decade till the end of 1939. Something we spend a lot of time with clients is around a conversation around asset protection. Asset protection is critical moving forward, particularly as they're moving into the conversation about asset tokenization, which is another whole conversation that you'd spend hours on moving forward. But we're working with clients to make sure that your asset protection's in place. We encourage all clients. A lot of people have rushed out and bought things like precious metals and cryptocurrency and properties and that sort of thing, and in their personal name. We recommend that people don't have anything in their personal name. And as some of the previous elite have said, including John D. Rockefeller, own nothing and control everything. And the reason that they got to be so successful and so wealthy is that they were planning for intergenerational wealth. And that's certainly something that we don't get trained and developed in. They say governments don't provide the knowledge, training, development, and information for people to be able to outpower them. So creating multiple income streams is part of the strategy moving forward, which is critical and crucial for clients moving forward for this transition, for your own protection, and then also for your diversity. And we encourage clients diversify and trying to create up to 5 streams of multiple streams of income. Number 6 is superannuation. So people are concerned about industry super funds in relation to their vulnerability. So we work with clients around diversification of their self-managed super funds. So people get control of the self-managed super fund for themselves, their superannuation. Then you've got the ability to be able to diversify for yourself into assets such as property, precious metals, decentralized cryptocurrencies, etc. moving forward. So people are set up. It takes something for people to be responsible for their own superannuation. It's not for everyone, but it's certainly an option for people to be able to do it, for clients if they want to. And I think for a lot of people is that they want to have a conversation with clients about where's their industry super fund invested. They don't know anything beyond medium, high, or low risk investments. And if they did a lot of digging there, they would find that a lot of their super fund is actually invested with companies like BlackRock, State Street, Vanguard, Morgan Stanley, that sort of thing as well. So including the types of businesses that they're invested in. So it's not just a conversation that other people are saying, like Robert Kiyosaki. I also had the opportunity to be able to meet Harry S. Dent, who wrote the book called The Greatest Depression Ahead. And he's resurfaced again in June 11, 2024, predicts crash of a lifetime. And again, it's not about creating fear for me, but I'm of the philosophy and the adage that if there's something that's going to happen, I want to know what it is, irrespective of that. And my cliche, or with the clients, my catchphrase is plan for the best and prepare for the worst. So just to be prepared in that regard. So he says again, the bubble's been going 40 years. Instead of most bubbles going 5 to 6, it's stretched longer. So you'd have to expect a bigger crash than we got in 2008, 2009. So taking control of your superannuation for yourself. Like I said, it takes something to be able to do it in that regard. Some clients, if you go to a traditional accountant, they'll tell you you can't do anything with yourself, with your superannuation yourself, unless you've got over 250,000. That's not entirely true. We've worked with clients that have had amounts as low as like $70,000, for example, and made some tremendous upside in the last 6 to 8 years. That's the back end in relation to managing your own super. So the key word moving forward here is in relation to diversification. So diversification, minimize, like what we've covered often previously about like looking where your risks are, where you're banking, minimizing your risk wherever possible, and then diversification. So there's the issue of precious metals, and we work with clients, like I said, over a 3 or 12-month period of time, so that we're working into your 10-year timeline moving forward. And everyone that we've worked with in the, like I said, the last 6 or 8 years has been in a different position, and they want to be somewhere else in the next 10 years' time by 2034. And there's not one size fits all strategy. Everyone is different. Everyone's in a different position. Everyone wants to be in a different location. All these things, whether they're fiat, property, precious metals, cryptocurrency, they're all assets. They're all instruments for you to fulfill on your mission and purpose moving forward, and what you're out to fulfill on the life that you want to create. Precious metals are great, but you do have storage issues and insurance issues with it associated as well. There's still an element of risk. And if a lot of people, clients are moving into perhaps becoming more sort of digital nomads, where they're sort of moving about, having a greater sense of freedom, but precious metals are great in their own instruments, but difficult if you want to try and send someone overseas $5,000. It just doesn't work with precious metals. So you're constrained in that regard. Cryptocurrency, I've been talking about decentralized cryptocurrency for a long period of time, educating people, potentially not getting caught up in any sorts of scams and that sort of thing, which people, sometimes a little bit of knowledge is a dangerous thing. We've been working with clients for a long period of time so that they're sorted in relation to cryptocurrency. Funnily enough, since I've been sharing about Bitcoin, since it was about $3,000 USD, and now it's around about 65 to 67 at the moment. So that's a 20x multiplier in the last 7 years or something. But cryptocurrency was originally created by anarcho capitalists as a reason to diversify and create another system, so that people have the ability to be able to transact directly with each other without needing banks moving forward. And like I said, we stick to decentralized cryptocurrencies because they're not controlled by anyone in particular. So there's 2 facets to cryptocurrency. One of them is obviously the investment aspect, and hopefully it appreciates. Gold and precious metals have been doing well, and not necessarily because that the value of those have been going up. It's that they've been creating money. They've been printing money like it's going out of control. So it's actually the devaluation of the dollar. And then we're experiencing unprecedented levels of inflation at the moment. And also inflation is another form of indirect taxation. But it says here, cryptocurrency will do to banks what email did to the postal service. Yes, sure, the postal service still exists, but nowhere near in the capacity that we've used it to previously. So for anyone that's here or listening to this video again, we'll also send you a link for $20 worth of Bitcoin as well to get started, for those that want to get started and just have a bit of a play and get familiar with it as well. But again, we do, as we said, you need to talk to us because ideally you don't want to have any assets in your personal name moving forward for this transition for the next 10 years. Cash flow positive property. And yeah, I mean, people have got to have somewhere to live. That's true. Encouraging clients also to get involved in cash flow positive properties, that the income that's being produced is far greater than the cost. And we're experiencing huge issues in relation to housing affordability at the moment in Australia. And the Australian government, in its infinite wisdom, which is not just happening in Australia, but it's actually happening all over the world at the moment as well. Australian government's going to be bringing in like another 1 million immigrants into Australia over the next 2 years. So encouraging people to get involved in cash flow properties, wherever that is available for you. I want to dispel, there's a lot of clients that sort of have come to us from time to time as well, and there's some different concepts of things being espoused in common law groups and that sort of thing as well, in conversations about these Nasara Jasara debt jubilee concepts, ISO 2022, that XRP crypto is backed by gold and XLM is backed by silver, and all these things are like purely fabricated speculation. Like I said, I've been in the space for nearly 12 years now, so it's like there's a lot of misinformation and disinformation kicking around the ridges at the moment. So just be wary of some of those things as well. And I know that for some of you that are like watching or listening to this information, it might sound a little bit overwhelming. The good news is it ends well. The bad news is like it gets pretty rocky in the middle. And when we're working with clients, we have clients stay far enough in front of the curve. So this slide is the joke about the two people that are in the jungle and they see a lion, and one of the guys stops to tie up his shoelaces, and the other guy yells out to him and said, "That's ridiculous. You can't outrun a lion." And he says, "I'm not going to outrun the lion. I just need to outrun you." So it's about having clients stay far enough in front of the narrative to be able to be prepared in that regard as it transpires in the coming years. So just to recap again, for a conscious investor community, our 7 pillars are around privacy, getting you up to speed and getting you covered as far as privacy with all your communications. If you don't have privacy, you can pretty much assume that all your communications are being monitored. Banking and finances, looking at your risk there, your diversification, how you're operating, debt consolidation, removal of any unnecessary debts, asset protection, again, having structures in place that you're protected, and also working with clients for their succession and legacy planning moving forward, creating multiple income streams, even if that doesn't occur to you at this point in time. How are you going to be able to do that? Some people are just like working whatever they're doing with their job or their business or whatever. There's always ways that we've discovered with clients that you can create multiple streams of income moving forward. Superannuation, getting control of your superannuation for yourself so that that's protected, and then you're able to diversify your own assets. So superannuation, getting that secured for you, and then diversification. So diversification into other forms of assets. Again, like I said, as from an investment point of view, but a lot of people are in the conversation about, okay, I don't want to be involved if, no doubt, if you're like me, you'd be concerned about the question that needs to be asked is, how are you going to operate and function outside the CBDC system if you're not going to participate in it? So getting across your diversification in that regard. So precious metals, decentralized cryptocurrency, cash flow positive property, and then having a strategy, having your own personal strategy for yourself, your family moving forward into the next 10 years. Here's a client testimonial from Jen, who we work with. She got some amazing results in really a short period of time. I'll just let her speak.
Hello, just dropping by to say that if you're thinking about working with Paul, I would 100% recommend him with no hesitation whatsoever. He's really been an incredible mentor in my life, a really stable guide, someone with expertise in a space that I was stepping into and really not aware of. He's connected me to the most amazing people. He helped me really see what was possible, and not once did he make me feel judged or pushed me towards his way of thinking. He really let me explore in a safe space what was going to be best for me, and then really helped me with the nitty-gritties, which I really don't enjoy, but he kind of sat with me while I did the things that he knew I needed to do. I didn't even realize the importance of some of those things until 6 or 12 months later, when I've needed to set up an account or for something, or whatever it was, and I would go, oh, I've actually already done that with Paul. And thank goodness he had the foresight to get me to do those things, because gave me such clarity. So highly recommend him. Great guy, great human, and full of wisdom that I hope gets shared around the whole world.
So that's some very kind words from Jen. She achieved some amazing things with relocating her property, family, business, multiple streams of income, relocation overseas, all that sort of thing as well. So anything that you want is, is possible outside your perceived constraints of circumstances personally, but also like what's happening environmentally in that regard, like as far as the narrative or the agenda, etc., as some people explain it. This is a photo that she sent us from where she was living overseas there as well. So we're offering a limited time only. There's a complimentary discovery coil there that's worth $220 for 30 minutes with our team as well. We're offering that for anyone that's interested. If there's any information that you feel that appeals to you or any questions that remain unanswered, if you are able to, I know some people are a little bit adverse to it, but if you take your camera and take the screenshot there, if you use your camera on your smartphone, it'll just lead you to the website link for you to be able to book an appointment with us moving forward. We'd love to be able to talk to you moving forward. There's a couple of recommended resources there that we'd like to share with you. That's the book by David R. Hawkins called Power versus Force, and certainly going to be appropriate in these times moving forward. Like I said, there's the time for protest and all those sort of actions are over. Now's the time for people to be best prepared moving forward. And then, of course, Robert Kiyosaki's book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, there, which was interesting about what he shared when I met him in person there as well, about diversification into property and decentralized cryptocurrency and precious metals and that sort of thing as well. So I highly recommend those books to check it out. Again, this is the link here if you want to jump on, if you missed the other one before, if you just get your phone and scan that QR code, it'll take your link. If you're watching the recording, you can pause that. That'll take us to the link for our website to be able to have a call with our team to discuss what your concerns are. If there's any questions that you've had that we've covered off on there, we'd love to be able to chat to you further. If there's any what ifs, maybes, what abouts, please get in communication with us as well. So I really do appreciate you listening to this presentation. It's been great to be able to share this information with you. We do certainly live in interesting times, and we'd love to be able to assist you moving forward if we can, if any of this resonates with you. Thank you for listening.